We're going to talk about the final story, do it now or die trying. Industry segments, fire restoration, HVAC, roofing are very hot industries, and we're finding a lot of buyers looking at those. Basically anything in the home service industry. And also tried and true industry segments like tire sales. IAG had a buyer group. They consolidated businesses in a certain industry segment. They buy businesses and absorb them into existing brands that they've already acquired. They asked for our help. They gave us their buying criteria by size, location, income, etc. In their experience, they offered higher multiples than we've solved from other consolidators for reasons we've discussed prior, like synergies, great efficiencies, and they can increase sales in these businesses. They had a very successful business model, so we went on the lookout for businesses for them to acquire.
This was a new engagement we had to fit the criteria of this buying group that you talked about. And based on the preliminary information, I thought it was a perfect fit. They were very profitable. They had a stable financial growth model. There was a long history, and we started to do the data gathering. In that stage, there's a lot of normal requests. We're looking for financials, tax returns, information about the assets, sales information by product, if you will, depends on the kind of business. In this case, that's what made sense. We get this information before we can do a valuation and before we send it off to market. At the same time, we had introduced it to this consolidator, and they were very excited. They had several more requests, and they were all very reasonable. At the same time, we felt we could go through the valuation, but also be responding in a way that would keep this consolidator buyer interested. So they asked for financials by location, sales by product type, and other details that also seemed reasonable. And if so, we were going to turn it around as quickly as possible. That's when I found out that their books were a mess. They were collecting data in-house, some of it from paper invoices, packaging it together, and then sending it to the CPA on an annual basis. This was at the corporate level only. They had no detail by location. So it's a situation where you look under the hood, they have this great vehicle, everything looks perfect on the inside, the engine's running, but they're missing some parts. And then it becomes a completely different story. In this case, they weren't using a point of sale system to track by part. They weren't internally reporting by location. And Jason, it's not unusual for us to see problems initially in terms of how we would put a business to market. It's part of what we do. We bring in the support. We bring in strategic partners. We brought in a fractional CPA who could assist and get the books in order. And that's actually what we're doing right now. And now we wait.
In this case, Joe, the deal really didn't die. They just weren't ready to go to market. They needed to do some cleanup. Now they're going to be well on their way to getting the kind of deal I think they're looking for. Even though we had a buyer waiting, doesn't always mean it's buyer ready, right, Joe? The challenge, many sellers are up there in age. They built and run their business over decades. And in this particular case, we find out very late that they're just not ready and delaying the process by months or sometimes even years.